Honduras has one of the highest murder rates in the world and one of the lowest solve rates. But when a high-profile beauty pageant winner and her sister go missing days before an international competition, all eyes were on Honduras, and the pressure to solve this one was like nothing the country had ever seen. I'm Charlie, and welcome to Crimelines. Welcome to today's 12 Days of Crimelines, where I do 12 daily episodes as my thank you to everyone for your support throughout the year. When I started the series this year, I thought I'm going to do a theme. I'm going to do a case from a different country every day. Now, that didn't work out entirely the way I planned because it's just hard to find enough information that I can either use Google Translate for or find English sources for. So I fell a little short of my goal of having 12 different countries and not relying on so many English-speaking countries. But today we do have a case from Central America, and today we are venturing to Honduras. Our story starts with 18-year-old Maria Jose Alvarado and 23-year-old Sofia Trinidad. Sofia and Maria were the younger two sisters in a family of 3 girls. By the time our case takes place, their oldest sister had already married and moved away. Both of these girls were into beauty pageants when they were teens, but Sofia's path went in a different direction as she got into her 20s. She quit doing pageants and went to school to become a teacher. Sofia loved children and she taught primary school until the school closed down, which cost her her job. She was looking for another position in 2013, but she was also making plans to settle down with her fiancé. However, their wedding never took place as he was tragically murdered in October of 2013. She stayed living at home with her mother while she figured out what to do next. And Maria also went to college studying computer science, but she hadn't stopped competing in beauty pageants. She worked as a model on a TV game show, which raised her public profile, and eventually made her way through the lower competitions to compete for the title of Miss Honduras in the Miss World pageants. She beat out 18 contestants in April of 2014, which secured Maria the title of Miss Honduras and gave her the chance to travel to London to represent her country while competing for the title of Miss World. To prepare for this trip and this competition, Maria practiced her English with a tutor, and she found the focus of her message and her mission. She wanted to encourage people to see Honduras as a diverse country with plenty to see. She wanted Honduras to be seen as a premier tourist destination because she thought a lot of the issues in the country, like the relatively high unemployment rate and the resulting poverty, could be solved to some degree with the jobs that tourism would bring. About half of the tourism to Honduras goes to the Bay Islands off the coast. When I was there earlier this year on Roatan, our guide said that the Bay Islands are so important due to those tourism dollars that they were the first to get COVID vaccines so they could start accepting tourists and cruise ships again. Aside from the islands like Roatan, I don't think a lot of people think of Honduras as a place to vacation. And a big part of that is the violent crime rate in Honduras. In some years, it does have the highest murder rate in the world, but often that title goes to El Salvador, which is its neighboring country. The U.S. State Department gives the entire country of Honduras a level 3 warning, which means to reconsider travel there. The Gracias a Dios department has a level 4 warning, which means do not travel. And departments are how Honduras sets up regions. So they're like states or provinces. Honduras is a beautiful country, and the ecotourism would be a major reason to go there. But with the travel advisories, it's a little more complicated of an issue than doing a come visit campaign. Maria, however, really hoped to eventually go into diplomacy in a way that would benefit her country and really make it a place that's on people's bucket list. By presenting Honduras this way in the beauty pageant, it was the first step in what she really hoped to do with her life. And in the fall of 2014, while Maria was preparing for her trip to London, her sister Sofia met 34-year-old Plutarco Ruiz, and the two started dating. It seems that Sofia did not know that Plutarco had a common-law wife and a child at home, and his wife certainly didn't know about Sofia. On Thursday, November 13th, 2014, Sofia was heading out to Plutarco's birthday party. She and Maria baked a cake together for Sofia to bring to the party, and she talked Maria into coming with her. The location of this gathering is sometimes referred to as a spa or as a resort, but from my understanding, that's a pretty generous description of this event space, which was located near their home in Santa Barbara. Plutarco invited a number of people to the party, and that included 6 security guards. He would later try to tell the world that he was but a simple farmer. However, I'm not sure how many farmers need 6 bodyguards at a party. The government of Honduras knew why Plutarco needed all of those bodyguards, as they contend that he was a drug trafficker, and he inherited his family business from his brother who had recently been murdered. And his brother had inherited the business from their father, who was killed by a rival gang 6 years before. Now, it's not clear which version of Plutarco Sofia thought he was. After this party, Sofia and Maria never made it home. The next morning, on November 14th, Plutarco called their mother, Teresa, and according to Teresa, he sounded nervous. He said that the sisters had gotten into a car with 3 men, and he didn't know who the men were, and the car didn't have a license plate, so he was calling to check in to make sure they got home okay. But Teresa told him they didn't. The two then went to the police to report Sofia and Maria missing, and Plutarco gave the police a statement about what he had seen. The disappearance made the news right away, but only because Maria was well known as a beauty pageant winner and for being on a TV game show. Because reporters were interested in this case, the police chief had to give a statement, and he said that they were not yet treating this as a crime. They were just trying to verify the whereabouts of the sisters. But this position changed as the weekend passed. Maria had a dress fitting appointment on Sunday, November 16th, for what she was planning to wear at the Miss World competition. When she missed that appointment, everyone knew something had to be terribly wrong because this competition was what she had been working towards. On Monday, November 17th, 4 days after Sofia and Maria were last seen, the police announced that they had made arrests in connection with their disappearances. The suspects detained were Sofia's boyfriend Plutarco and his friend Aris Maldonado. All the police would say at this point was that they were the last people to see the sisters before they disappeared, and they were being investigated for their involvement in what was being considered a kidnapping. The police at this point said that there were indications that the sisters were alive, but being held against their will. They set up patrols at the country's borders in the event that whoever had taken them was trying to get out of the country. Kidnappings related to drugs or gangs do happen in Honduras. Sofia, Maria, and their family were not involved in anything like that, but we do know Plutarco probably was, and that's a big reason why he and his friend were detained for questioning. Teresa then made a public plea that whoever took her daughters to see her pain and just let them go. There were even public protests demanding their release. On Wednesday, November 19th, after 2 days in jail and undergoing police interrogation, Plutarco reportedly confessed that he had killed both sisters the night of his party. He said that while at the party, he saw Sofia dancing with another man, which triggered jealousy and an argument. He pulled out a gun and shot Sofia in the head. After witnessing this, Maria tried to run, so he turned and fired on her, shooting her in the back. Then he and his friend Aris put the bodies into a white pickup truck and drove them down the road a bit. They buried the two right on the riverbank, with Plutarco's thinking being that they would decompose faster near the water. And after confessing, Plutarco led the police to where he buried the sisters, which was about 10 miles from the rundown resort where he had his party. a search of the area turned up the bodies of both sisters. They were shot a total of 22 times between the both of them. The police knew that there was no way that a shooting like that happened at an event space and was completely cleaned up without anyone else knowing or helping. So they then arrested the owners of the quote-unquote spa where the party was held, Ventura Diaz and his wife Elizabeth Alvarado. Some reports say that their daughter was either also arrested or at least brought in for questioning. Plutarco wasn't just charged with murder, but he was charged with femicide, which is a hate crime in Honduras, and it comes with a large sentencing enhancement. As for Aris Maldonado, Ventura Diaz, and Elizabeth Alvarado, they were all charged with complicity, which is the equivalent to what we would call being an accessory here in the U.S. This looked like a slam dunk case with the confession, but Plutarco very quickly recanted. Although maybe recanted's not the right word. He went to the media to tell them that he actually never confessed at all. He didn't lead the police to the bodies, and he was being framed. There was no real explanation for how the police found the bodies if no one led the authorities to them, but whatever happened, Plutarco said he didn't do it. So let's get into a little context about murder in Honduras. Honduras has the highest femicide rate of Central America and the highest youth murder rate in the world. A child living in Honduras is 10 times more likely to be killed than a child in the U.S., and the vast majority of the victims are teenage boys. And when a murder is committed, the odds are that the perpetrator will never face a courtroom. Only 4% of cases make it all the way to a conviction. Most don't even see an arrest. Gangs, drugs, and systemic corruption are the major factors that contribute to this. The mayor of Santa Barbara at the time Maria and Sofia were killed said that people in town believed that the police waited from Friday, when the sisters were reported missing, until Monday to detain Plutarco in order to give him a chance to flee the area. That's how low faith in law enforcement can be there. People just assume the police are helping the criminals. At the time Sofia and Maria were murdered in November of 2014, 328 women had already been murdered in Honduras that year. Few, if any, got front-page media coverage, and none of them got international coverage. None of them until Maria Jose Alvarado. Suddenly, the world was watching. Teresa, Sofia and Maria's mother, said the only reason they got attention was because Maria was famous. If not for that, she believed she would be like so many other mothers across Honduras who lost children with no resolution or justice or even an investigation. In some people's view, the police in this case had their hand forced to investigate and make an arrest due to that international pressure. And once they had an arrest, they had to deliver a conviction. And that's where we'll pick up Plutarco's claims of innocence. He spoke with the Daily Mail in an exclusive interview and said he was being scapegoated. He denied all the accusations against him, not just the murders, but like I said, he denied the accusation that he had confessed. He said he refused to speak to the police after he was detained, and anything they said he said was made up. Plutarco also denied being a drug trafficker or being involved in any type of gang or drug-related crimes. Even his mother was interviewed for the article and portrayed the family as humble farmers. She ran a small snack shop, and Plutarco was a homebody who tended the family's 8 cows. To give the other side of things, the reporter did try to find people to back up the government's claim that Plutarco was a major player in the drug scene. But they had trouble finding anyone with a bad word to say about him. Now, the reason given by the prison officials was not that Plutarco was a good guy. It's that he was such a bad guy that people were scared of him, and they didn't trust that the justice system would convict him and keep him locked up. They were not going to risk retaliation if or when he got out of jail. In February of 2017, more than 2 years after the murders, Aris Maldonado, Ventura Diaz, and his wife Elizabeth Alvarado were sentenced to 4 years for complicity. Based on the limited information I have available, which means me running articles through Google Translate, they may have taken a plea deal. I did manage to find some of them on social media, and looking back on their posts from this time frame, I do have the impression that this time wasn't all spent locked up, and they may have been on probation or released with time served. I didn't think any of them would have wanted a Facebook message from me asking for details about their conviction, but just know that at least 2 of them didn't spend much time locked up unless Honduras provides Facebook access and family fun days at the pool from prison. Plutarco Ruiz went on trial in late April, early May of 2017. He was maintaining his innocence at trial, but the government had more evidence on him than just his confession. They found the suspected murder weapon and linked it to him, and they also found evidence that his truck was used to transport the bodies. They learned that Plutarco had just so happened to bring his truck in to be cleaned and repainted the weekend the women went missing. One source said that during trial, Plutarco had tried to act mentally ill, but the experts said he was faking it. He was found guilty of Maria's murder, and in Sofia's case, he was found guilty of femicide. The difference between femicide and killing someone who happens to be a woman is that the gender has to be linked to the motive. Sofia's gender and Plutarco's belief that because she was a woman, she was his woman and had to obey him, that led to her murder. Maria's death was because she was a witness, and he would have killed her even if she was a man, making it not femicide. Teresa said she believed Maria's death was also femicide, as evidenced by the sheer number of shots fired into her. It was far more than was needed to simply stop her from fleeing or reporting the crime. There was a rage there. Plutarco was facing 20 years for Maria's murder and 40 for Sofia's. It would be up to the judge on whether or not his sentences would be served consecutively or concurrently, so he was looking at a maximum of 60 years. In the end, he was given 45. But if we count pretrial detention, Plutarco ended up serving just over 8 years. In early February 2023, Plutarco, who was then 40 years old, was killed by 2 other inmates. Maria Jose Alvarado had wanted to represent the best Honduras had to offer as a Miss World contestant. But in her death and her sister Sofia's, they became symbols of the worst of the country. The culture of machismo, the dangers facing women, and the Honduran government's lack of effective efforts to change anything. By continuing to elevate this case and show how it represents the cases of hundreds of women who had no platform, maybe enough pressure will build to push for change. There are certainly a lot of people working very hard within the country to make that happen. Maria wrote on her biography page for the Miss World competition about Honduras that the best is yet to come. And for the safety and security of all Hondurans, I think we can all hope that Maria was right.